Welcome to the Mortgage Broker Podcast, tailor-made for Canadian mortgage industry professionals. Proudly presented by A Better Way Mortgage Group, this podcast is your trusted source for insider insights, market updates, and strategies to elevate your career in the ever-evolving world of mortgage brokering. Whether you're a seasoned broker with A Better Way Mortgage Group or an industry enthusiast looking to stay ahead, our episodes are designed to empower you with the knowledge and tools you need to excel in the Canadian mortgage space. All right, we're back for another episode of the Mortgage Broker Podcast, and today we have a very special guest, Eddy, Cocciollo, and Derek Williamson, co-host, joining me today. This is a big one for us. This is part of our Behind the Leader series, and we're going to get into all things DLCG, of course, but mainly want to hammer home on some leadership components of Eddy's life and just how he's come to be in this position of the president of the Dominion Lending Center group of companies. It is a powerhouse in Canada's mortgage industry, and Eddy brings over 25 years experience in a very similar role. So looking forward to diving into this. Eddy, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Great to be here. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. All right, let's just start there. Maybe a bit of an introduction into yourself and your career and, how you found yourself in this position with DLCG.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, maybe when you're a kid, you want to be a fireman or a policeman. Nobody really says, I want to be in the mortgage business. For me, it was going to school. I needed a part-time job. And most of my friends were at grocery stores. I was lucky enough to get into a bank. It was Canada Trust. I was a teller, customer service rep there, and sort of cut my teeth with being that teller and then slowly moving up the ranks at Canada Trust. Side counter is what they called it, or CSO. And I sort of gravitated to lending just because I think people appreciate when you give them money instead of taking their money. And
Sure.
love making them smile and make them happy if they're buying their dream home or borrowing for a car or et cetera. And, from there, the mortgage specialist role in Canada Trust was really interesting. And when I was in the branches, I always saw these guys around. They always drove nice cars and dressed nicely. And, and I was like, wait, I do the same thing as you do. And I have to walk to work or take the bus. Like, what's going on here? Fortunately or unfortunately, Canada Trust had a hiring freeze. And a friend of mine, Matt Murphy, worked at CIBC, said, hey, my friend works at CIBC in the mortgage specialist space, and they're hiring. His name was Bruno Marcello. He's actually an agent with Mortgage Center Canada, and he hired me as a mortgage specialist. I was 1998, I think it was early 90s. Fast track there. Loved being a mortgage specialist, but I had some opportunities elsewhere. Sort of bounced around a few companies. Ended up at CMHC, which was a great experience. And then I thought, I missed that entrepreneurial sort of life, and I tried mortgage brokering. And that took me to a small company, an independent company called Assured Mortgages, which are still around today. I was lucky enough to be in a Sutton Group office and, worked as hard as I could to gain as many COIs as I could within the realtor community. And but I got pushed to that non-prime business, and mostly because I was in Streetsville. And I think it was the people that I helped with the non-prime business, the people that I helped that couldn't go to the bank seemed to be more appreciative of what I did. So I learned really quickly that that's where I wanted to be. And I sort of became an expert in the finance field. And then I got a knock on the door from GE, who was going to launch in Canada. And I thought, this would be a great opportunity. At that time, they were the biggest company in the world. And what an opportunity that would be. So I tried it out, took a sabbatical, what I thought would be a sabbatical. My brother took over the business, and tried this out. And we were one of the first lenders to come out with 30-year amortization, then 40-year amortization, which didn't last that long. Actually, CMHC, about 6 months later of coming out with 40-year amortization, started cutting our grass there. And then the financial crisis happened. And unfortunately, with that, GE didn't last very long globally and shut down their Canadian business. From there, I was lucky enough that Rick Lunny, who was the president and CEO of G Money, was also the EVP at CIBC, and asked me to launch a similar business, a non-prime business at CIBC. If you guys remember First Line Access, ran that for 6 months, and then CIBC got caught up in the asset-backed paper reputational risks. And even though they liked the business, they thought, for shareholders' sake, they better get out at that time. So that left me sort of in limbo. But Mortgage Center Canada was looking for a leader. I was lucky enough to lead Mortgage Center Canada from 2008 all the way till 2013, when Gary and Chris acquired Mortgage Center Canada in a bid system that happened in June of 2013. So I was continuing being the president of Mortgage Center Canada, moved over to DLC in 2019, and then they tapped on my shoulder just last year to lead DLCG. So that sort of was my career in 5 minutes.
That's really cool. I mean, you've kind of seen every angle of the industry, right, in your career. Question on the Mortgage Center piece. When you took that role, how big was Mortgage Center?
Yeah, they were once number one in Canada. Dan Putnam was the president at that time, and they became very large. I don't know if they were number one. MI Invest were around at that time, but they were definitely close to it. I think at their peak, while they're part of CIBC, maybe $5 billion.
So a whole different ballgame compared to what's DLCG's current?
Well, we just had a results posted yesterday, $67.9 billion.
Wow.
High watermark of almost $79 billion.
Wow.
It's funny. I sat around a boardroom with CIBC executives one time, and this was probably maybe 2010. And they talked about what it would take to accumulate all of the brokerages in terms of what they'd have to pay out to own all the origination. And it was something like maybe 20 billion at that time was a total origination. And we thought we could buy it for like $5 million.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's a missed opportunity.
I was going to say that, but yeah.
That's cool.
I mean, with that journey, I'm sure it's shaped you in a lot of areas, but mainly around your leadership approach. Like how has each of these stops really built and rooted you in how you lead today?
Yeah, I think any leader would probably look at the leaders they had in the past and what worked for them best. I've had some exceptional leaders. I was lucky enough. I talked about Bruno Marcella, a young guy, and I saw how he led, and he led in a way where it was more about everybody else and not him. Not CIBC, like how can I help you? How can I help you grow? How can I help you be better? Rick Lunny, who was one of my mentors. And even though he was a numbers guy and he probably was in that boardroom more often than he was on the ground level or in the field, he respected the guys in the field and he listened to the guys in the field. That kind of, as he put it, managing by walking around and ensuring that he was always connected with those that were in the field. I always respected that. And then there's, Gary and Chris, who have a leadership style that, it's up to you on how. They'll never say no. They'll always support you, but they will make sure they give their opinion. And that's, kind of a leadership style that I think I gravitate to. I don't think I push down. I rather hear from, down to up. And, I got to trust your people. And it's always important to surround people that are smarter than you, better than you. And I think that's what I have. I'm very fortunate to have a really strong, talented team. At DLC, I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't ever think I'm the smartest person in the room. Chances are I'm just never am, which is okay.
Yeah.
But whatever I can contribute, great. But it's more about everybody else that's around me and ensuring that they get what they need to succeed.
Yeah, I mean, I can just echo that piece from the leadership team at DLCG. Like, we've been so blown away, especially in the last couple of years since we took over a Better Way, at how supportive, knowledgeable, everyone, you talk about Dave, Mary, like it's always it's always blowing us away at how supportive. But to your point, like, you got to ask for it, you got to go for it, right? And like, they're there to whatever extent you request. And Dean and I talk about this all the time. Anything that's ever been promised to us has been delivered on, right? Which is it just goes so far.
Yeah, you have to. There's parts of being a leader where you have to make the tough choices.
Yeah.
But you don't make the tough choices for yourself. You make it for the entire enterprise, and it's never a personal choice. It's always about ensuring that the business is running the way it has to run, and that you're taking care of everybody along the way. And tough choices sometimes happen, and you can't take them personally.
Yeah.
You got to just make them.
Yeah, and I think like one thing for me that's I was drawn towards DLCG. Well, Dominion Lending Centers is where we started our career, and we've never left since. And one of the big pieces here, like in 15 years, the leadership team has pretty much been the same, or they've added to it.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, and like the consistency of that is really important to me in our role as leaders within our group, and just knowing that we always have the same relationships. They're not going away, and it's only getting better. Like how does that, it's obviously a big focus for you to keep the team intact. I know from a Gary perspective, his people don't leave him, and that says everything to me. Like, do you see, like, how do you look at that? And is that part of your philosophy?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a testament of, the leadership team, the business that you run, how you run it. It's really important that the people feel like they're part of something. And if they do, they're going to stick to it. They're gonna support you. They're gonna support the business. And I think we do a really good job with that. Gary and Chris have been those kind of leaders where they're open, they're, open door. They really love their people, and they demonstrate that, every day.
Yeah.
And it's not about, yeah, guys, just go out there, do what you want kind of leadership. It's, hey, we have a goal, we have a vision, and we want you to be part of it.
Yeah.
And I think people jump on to that and understand it and just go with it. And I think that's really important.
Like, to me, that's a huge area where you can measure success. And like, if you look at how you measure success as a leader, I mean, you lead all these owners, partners, lender partners, brokers, down right to new agents coming into the industry. Like, how do you measure success from a growth perspective, but also just personally and mentoring all thousands of people?
I think success is measured this way. You have to have goals, right? So you want to be fit. You got to say, okay, this is where I want to weigh, and my percentage of fat, whatever. You want to make $1 million. This is what but success isn't necessarily reaching the goal. Success is the journey towards the goal. Because if you don't stop trying, you're never quitting. And what's really important is that you keep trying. So if you have the energy and the wherewithal to keep trying and to drive towards whatever goal that is without ever giving up, to me, that defines success.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. And I think about the parts of the business that I truly enjoy, right? And I think that that's the piece where I find energy is, the strategy, it's the tough conversations, it's the shit you didn't expect, right? But like, you work through it and you find a solution, and you're right, like, you're eventually going to achieve that goal, but like, hitting that number, you're not sitting back going, oh, that's, it feels so good. It's recognizing what you've been through.
I mean, leadership in a challenging industry, we're definitely in a challenging industry for a lot of reasons. And I wouldn't mind getting into a bit of that, like, especially right now, rising interest rates all over the place, discretion issues with certain lenders, regulatory shifts. I'm a big one, technology disruption. Luckily we've had the support of Velocity and all that brings, all the positive that brings, but it also, brings negativity when it comes to change and certain things around that. But just overall, like, how do you address challenges, especially when it comes to like the rates and these regulatory shifts, and then again, technology? How do you lead through that?
Nothing kills you faster than your mind.
That's a good point.
Right? You stress over the things you can't control.
Yeah.
Then that's the path that it's going to lead you to. So, I've been around this business a long time, and you guys have too. You're a lot younger than me. There's always challenges. It's always about rates or the market, the economy, some crazy president. There's always these challenges. So if you focus on that, then that's where your mind's going to go. But if you just focus on activities, doing the right things, ensuring that your calendar is full and that, you're always looking to be better, then all that stuff is just noise, but it's noise you can ignore. You have to understand them. Like you have to understand what's going on in the economy, and I guess there's these tariffs and rates are going, understand them, but don't be so into things that you can't control. Like what are the opportunities? Dig those out. It's amazing. Mindset has been something I focused on, probably the last sort of 10 years. But I can tell you, I used to go down rabbit holes all the time. And you can notice that when you go down those rabbit holes, and you guys have all experienced this, then that's where you stay and that's where your focus is. And then it gets worse and worse. So my advice is, the activities is what's going to bring you forward. Just, if you're making prospect calls and you're noticing that, something's happening in the market, make more prospect calls. You're good at it. It's made you successful. Adjust them a little bit. Don't worry about it. It is what it is. You can't control it, but you can control your activities and what you do, how you show up every day. You can control those things. That's what you want to do. Double down on that.
Yeah.
There's a broker in Curtis, Ontario. His name's Kurt Henry. And if you call Kurt Henry between 9 and 12, he won't answer the phone because he's prospecting. And so when we were going through those challenging times in 2023, I just called him and said, hey, how's it going? He says, I'm up in transactions and, it's really good. And I'm like, wait a minute, what do you mean? He says, well, I noticed it pretty quickly that things were changing and I had such a huge responsibility for my team. I just prospected an hour more a day and I kept up with my activity.
Wow.
And
so simple, but
it's so simple.
Yeah.
It's what he's good at.
Yeah.
He knows he can deliver by doing those calls between 9 and 12 every single day. He just upped it an hour.
That's cool. And we were just talking to Chris K recently, and he says recruiting solves everything, right?
Oh.
And you can apply that to really any business, and especially as a mortgage broker, in that perfect example, prospect more, because it will solve all your problems.
And to your point on how you deal with challenges, think back to when Bank of Canada was jacking rates up.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to guess, but they're probably the bulk of our industry took the approach of I'm scared to call my clients because I put them, they opted for a variable. But the brokers that just doubled down and said, look, this is what it is. We're all dealing with it. I have a variable myself. And they called all their clients to just be there for them. Right. They're killing it right now because they took that approach. Right. So just pushing through. We were at Inspire a couple of years ago in Mexico, and Gary was speaking on stage and he said, you're always going to have a problem. And it just resonated with me, right? Because you have a problem and then you solve it. You think you've kind of gotten through, the woods, but there's always going to be something. So just managing the expectation of that and not letting it take over your mind.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We almost laugh now when these, problematic emails come in or whatever, because it's just another one, right?
Listen, problem solving can be exciting if you understand that, there's something on the other end.
Yeah.
Right. So.
I just want to get into your strategic outlook. The evolving broker lender dynamics is a big one, and just strengthening these relationships. Any insights leading through these market disruptions that could maybe help one of our listeners?
Yeah, I think you have to. It's always about education and understanding what's going to help you with any situation. The best brokers have big toolboxes. So they understand there's solutions to, if it's a loan to value issue, if it's a credit issue, if it's both, their toolbox is always expanding. So ensuring that you either have a mentor that understands that and is teaching you all this, or you're always researching and looking for the next sort of solution. I think as brokers, you have a responsibility to understand this industry from A to Z, right? And you're surrounded by people that know it better than you. That there's lenders, there's training sessions, there's associations, there's events, there's all kinds of ways you can learn in this business. And I think the constant learning in this business is so valuable. And there's always going to be change. regulatory change, policy change. We saw some big ones the last couple of years. So what is it that you need to ensure that it's not going to affect your business? It's going to improve your business, right? So if it's AML, then what is it? Solution to AML to ensure it improves your business. If it's interest rates, where are the solutions there? So always looking to ensure that your toolbox is full.
That's a great point. I mean, when FinTrack came in, we were beside ourselves, like out of our skin I think everyone was, right? I mean, a lot of people still are, but once we wrapped our head around it, and there's been a lot of cost and a lot of time, a lot of effort that's gone into making sure that we're meeting these compliance requirements. We've realized that we could put a different spin on this, like create a culture of compliance. Like, you want to be here because it's done well and it's done proper, and like your license isn't at risk, right? Like, it's something we talk about in recruitment now. We never would have talked about compliance in recruitment before, right? It's just something people don't want to think about. They hate it, but you talk about the importance of it, and if you put a professional spin on it, it's mind blowing how many people go, oh shit, my brokerage isn't doing that. Am I up to speed? Am I up to date? What does this look like for me long term?
Right, run towards it.
Yeah,
find solutions, and then spin it as a sales tool.
Yeah,
like how brilliant is that? Hey,
Yeah.
you know what? Not only do we understand AML, we've made it part of our culture.
Yeah.
And this is the solutions for it. And you should work here because I bet you wherever you are doesn't have that solution.
Yeah,
It's
like
fantastic.
we're now we're in the business of protecting you and making sure your business is ironclad, and like there's no other way to really put it, especially with it being the number one discussed topic this year. I mean, it's a good segue into just the mentorship and team building that I feel is a big part of the culture at DLC, and maybe you can just touch on like how you foster that within the network. And I mean, Gary and Chris praise you for your ability to create such a resilient culture, and maybe you can touch on that a little bit.
Yeah. So when Gary has been such a great mentor to me, and watching him and how he ensures that everyone around him has the ability to tap into what he does best. And you guys know this yourselves, is he's always sharing. He's always trying to make it look like, or not look like it, he's always trying to make it that you can be better. And whatever he can share to make you better, it's always available, right? And he went through that CEO series, and he shared his expertise, or if it's not him, he brought someone else on and said, let me share with you, what Darren Hardy does, or Robin Sharman does, or David Littiger. He had these connections that were, you're able to tap into, and he was able to share. So I can't go on that extent, but I think, for me, whenever people are coming to me and looking for advice, I can give it because of my experience. I've been around the broker industry for a long time. I've seen it all. When it comes to success, I think I have a pretty wide bandwidth of what I've seen from people that came into this business and are truly successful, or have maintained success for years, and if not decades. So I can share that with anybody that wants to ask. I went through an exercise in 2013-14 where I just interviewed very successful agents, and just trying to, what's the secret sauce? What's the Cadbury secret? Yeah. And everybody skins a cat different ways. But the one thing that was prominent in all those very successful people was prospecting. Always looking for the next deal, either from a referral source into their database. They're always looking, always looking, always looking. And so, these are the things I can share. And if you are, either new in the business, looking for that next level, or want to know how to maintain it, I probably know someone that's in one of those categories, and I can share that with you. And chances are I can even connect you with that broker. So I think that's pretty important.
That's great. I mean, just to speak to the collaboration, right? Like, I don't know what other industries are like, but it's phenomenal, right? Like, our top broker is more than happy to jump on a Zoom call and share their strategies with everybody else, right? Like, it's just so cool to have that, especially as a newbie. Imagine going into an industry where you're set up to fail, right? So that's always stood out to me in our industry. and especially our group.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't mind getting into like the behind the scenes of your leadership, especially around like the operational side of things. Diving into your day to day. What does it look like? I mean, you're overseeing three of the largest brands, not just in the industry, but in the country, like in period, right? And what does that look like? What does a day to day look like? Because that's obviously it's a tall task.
Yeah. So my prime responsibility is DLC. DLC is our largest network. It deserves a lot of attention. We have a big team at DLC. I think it's probably one of the top talented teams in the country, which helps. Lucky for me, I don't have to be on a day to day and ensuring that things work because we have such a great team. But a lot of my time is spent on DLC. Then, of course, helping my counterparts, Rich and Mike. They have some fairly large networks themselves. We collaborate as much as we can, ensure that they are getting what they need to be successful. And then the public market sides. I'm lucky enough that I get to be part of that in investor meetings and ensuring that on board calls that I'm sharing with the board, what we're doing, our successes, our challenges, getting feedback from them. But my day to day, guys, is on the ground with my DLC people, probably 85-90% of the day. My calendar is full, either with Zoom calls, meetings, ensuring that our people get what they need to be successful. There's a lot of, feedback that I'm getting from the field. Our RVPs, that has been something that we launched last year, has been very successful, that Greg is leading. There's never, a dull moment. But I think, what's really important to me is that I am adding value every day, that I'm ensuring that my brokers, my agents, my owners are getting what they need. And that's where I spend most of my day.
I have to imagine that you're so connected to the ground also helps you from a vision and a strategy perspective. And maybe we can just unpack that, like setting goals across, DLC, of course, but just the entire DLCG. Like, how do you go about that side of it?
Yeah. So the vision is Chris and Gary. Gary will put out the vision. He's got $100 billion goal at the moment. And then the strategies come down from there, where you get the 5 pillars is a good example, ensuring that, what do we need to do to ensure that our brokers are successful, that they're constant growth. Growth is obviously, what is our focus. So that vision is at the top. And then my job as the president of DLCG is making sure that vision comes to reality. The strategies and the plans are set and are worked on. So that's that vision that it comes from Gary. Sometimes is on a daily thing. So Gary will come in, swoop in and say, okay, this is what we're doing. Sometimes it's on a monthly, quarterly, yearly, and then a 5-year plan. So all those visions come down from the top. Of course, we all contribute to them in one way or the other. And then it's just my job to make sure they're executed.
Yeah, I mean, one thing, the DLCG team, leaders, staff, you name it, like from what I've recognized is everyone's rowing the same boat always, right? Like they're at every single event, they're trying to talk to people, they're trying to push, everything that you guys are doing internally, talk about tech, which we're going to go into, but like velocity as an example, right? Like what an absolute game changer for everybody. And you guys have gotten that from, I don't know what the numbers were prior, but like I think DLCG is at what, 70, 80, 90% now?
Yeah, close. We're definitely in the high 70s. I think we just cracked the 80% mark. On our way to 85. It's been amazing, and it's just proof, social proof that technology is working. It's making our brokers better. It's making them more efficient. Overall, their businesses are better because of velocity. We just launched version 3 today, which we're really excited about. That's the importance. The importance is we keep investing in what's helping our brokers. And we're lucky enough to have a technology that we can put a lot of horsepower behind to make our brokers better and their businesses better. And that's our goal, right? The feedback that you guys give us, as part of that, we have a great team led by Jeff Willis, back in Velocity in Newton. It's been great. It's been really, really fun to watch.
I'm glad you brought this up because it just circles around innovation. And when it comes to velocity, it has to be one of the number one, if not the number one pillar when you talk about the 5 pillars. And for me as an owner within this group, it's very important to know that, because I look at velocity, especially with Velocity 3, which to your point launched today. I was on that call just prior to this recording, and it's like a product of it's a tool that really is made by brokers. It's for brokers, and it's made by brokers in a sense that Velocity 3 is a product of feedback from the brokers that, hey, we need this, we need that, and they went out and delivered it. And to just go out and deliver a product, especially in the tech world, requires a ton of investment and time. And when you look at as a broker choosing what's not just what network you want to be with, but tech is really what's fueling that business. That's how we're getting our deals to the lender. For anyone that's listening and may not be in the industry, that tool is so vital to our business. And when something is not quite right, or we need something fixed or added to it, the fact that we can give feedback and it is and then delivered upon, what is your perspective around that? I'm sure it's similar to ours, but like how much is that a game changer to the business? And going forward, I would assume that's only going to be expected going forward.
I've been around the industry a long time, and I've seen the innovation of technology. It's moving really quickly now. And I think in order for you to be nimble and move at the speed and the pace of technology, you have to have a huge footprint in that space. We, when Gary and Chris invested in Marlboro Sterling at that time, I don't know if they envisioned what it would become, but what they did understand is if you didn't own technology and relied on a third party, then it'd be very expensive and slow. Because imagine every change that you want to make, and you said the feedback coming from brokers and saying, we need to do it for our technology to do this, this, and this. Then we'd have to go to a third party and say, this is what we want to design. And then they would say, okay, this is how much it's going to cost. That's just broken. Mm-hmm. So that vision that they had to say, hey, we have to own the technology. We have to own, how it's going to be shaped. We have to make sure that we get our feedback from our brokers has been brilliant. Yeah. And it's just going to get better and better. This version 3 is just another stepping stone to version 4 or version 5, because that's what it's going to become. And as the market shifts, the technology shifts, then we are able to shift with it. That is so important.
Man, it is so important. And to think about picking a provider to build your business around, how could you not invest your entire business into a product that's only trying to get better and better? And the fact that it is owned by the network, the group of companies, I feel is one of its biggest strengths, because it has that feedback loop. And it is so important to the success of the other networks that everyone is aligned. That's the feel we get. Is that how it is behind the scenes?
Definitely. Gold Rush is another great example. We sat around, we said, here's what we need to do. And then we're able to build it within, weeks, if not months. Same thing with AML. That was something where we can go in and build it within weeks and months. Huge investments, big resources, but we're able to do it. And that's just going to continue. AI is another piece that, you don't see it in the forefront, but it's definitely in the background. We understand that it's going to be probably a big part of the business going forward. So how do you implement that? So all of these things, being part of it, ensuring that we have what it takes to keep up is just so vital. And I'm excited. Yeah. I think we're just scratching the surface of what technology is going to do for our industry and what it's going to do for our brokers. As time goes on, it's going to just get better and better, and it's going to help us also penetrate and be brokers being more sought after than our banks, right? Technology is going to be part of that. Yeah. Right. The better we get at technology, the client journey and the portals and, all of that stuff, when you're on the marketplace, it's just going to make it easier, and clients are going to, clunky banks and, it's really hard to deal with. And then we're getting more efficient. We're getting better. That's just going to bode well for our industry.
Hey everyone, Dean here. Quick timeout from the episode to share with you the ABW Tuesday Mortgage Memo, your weekly market highlights sent directly to your inbox every Tuesday. This is certainly one you're not going to want to miss, so make sure to sign up now. You can do so with a link in the show notes, or you can head to joinabw.ca and sign up there. This is a high-level summary of market developments, regulatory updates, and housing trends every Tuesday. So hope you enjoy it, and back to the show.
We've touched on this already throughout this conversation, just naturally around collaboration and like industry collaboration, to be more specific. Like maybe just touch on the value that you place on your partnerships when it comes from brokers, lenders, tech providers like Newton. Maybe just any insights in that you could share into building these win-win relationships, because that's really what they are.
Yeah, and I think, just starting with our suppliers, our lenders, I mean, obviously they're so vital in the success of our business. And, they, for us, supporting our broker, our lenders and our partners is so important. And we treat them like clients. And, it's not like, hey, you got to do this for us. We always are in the place of, what can we do for you? And that goes, right across all of our partners. So important. Our most important partners are our brokers, our owners, our agents. They are our customers. We want to make sure that they are getting what they need. That is a constant relationship that we are fostering to ensure that our brokers get what they need. This is something that Gary's been saying since the beginning. Well, you'll never work for us. We work for you. I mean, that's true in every sense of that statement. We're all about working and ensuring that you're successful. Technology, again, just to go back to that really quickly, is going to get to a point where it's going to be such ingrained in our business and a big part of our business that it's going to just be our job to go get the business. The technology is going to take care of everything else.
Yeah.
Right. From A to Z. So, going out, finding the business, building the relationships, making sure your business is run a certain way, and then throwing into a technology that's going to take care of everything else is where we're headed.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. You got to get, if you're an introvert, you got to find a way to get out there and be an extrovert, because like the importance of being, face to face or at least out there as a resource that humans can connect with is going to be so important because of that reason, where tech is really going to be able to take care of the rest. I mean, it's a good segue just into the broker relationship side of things, and just kind of getting into this more broker centric insights from you, which I really want to dive into, and especially around, how can existing agents or agents that are thinking about joining a DLCG network, what should they know about collaborating? Or what's the best way for them to collaborate with leadership at DLCG?
Yeah, listen, open door, right?
Yeah.
Even Gary, he always spurts out his phone number, his email.
Gary at DLC.ca.
Yeah, I think that's the attitude right across, our entire organization. There's nobody that you can't get a hold of. The best way is, just call us, email us, right? It's Eddy Cocciollo. It's Eddy at DLC.ca, 647-403-7320. We understand that a lot of these brokers looking to change, there's a lot out there. There's a lot of choice. There's a lot of good choice. We are in an industry that's very mature, very professional. But there's a ton of really good networks out there. But there's a reason why DLC is number one. There's a real reason why DLCG is number one. And I do believe that we invest in our brokers like no other network in the country. We want to see the success of the brokers and agents more than anyone else in the country. We firmly believe that. If you are looking, you need to call us. I really believe that. You have to compare. And listen, if you don't choose us, that's okay. Eventually you will. We firmly believe that. We firmly believe that we are, the best out there, but you have to give us at least a chance. And if you're not going to come see us, directly, then do your research, right? best people to bounce off is our partners,
Yeah.
Our lenders, which the top 10 were number one with our top 10. Ask the BDMs, do your research, and we love to have the opportunity to at least talk to you.
Yeah, I mean, just a comment for any broker listening that's with DLCG. Like, if you don't have a relationship with head office, I strongly suggest you do. Call Eddy, call whoever it is that you want. And, we've been going back and forth on this for a while, is how do we integrate DLCG more with our agents? And so Heather, as an example, right? Having an RVP, having someone to go to, people with DLCG, I'm sure a lot of people actually don't understand the depth of resources available to them, even when it comes to tools and apps and marketing, like you name it, it's there. Right. But, if you're not utilizing it and you're not aware of it, that's a miss on you as a broker.
Yeah.
Right. So like, just if you're not in touch, if you're with a Better Way, let us know, we'll connect you guys right away. Build a good relationship. That's the most important part in all of this. Right. When you're talking network, sure, there's tools and strategy and lender access. Like for us, it's always been relationship driven. Right.
Yeah. And I mean, to your point, Derek, like you guys are available. Like clearly available, and just reach out. To your point, like the numbers are public, they're everywhere.
And sorry to interrupt.
No.
It's not like I'm going to pass you on.
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure that I engage. And if there's someone better than me to talk to, that's why you're going to be in front of, one of our sales guys or Joe Panero, or it's not because I don't have time for you. I'm just not going to do the job that these guys do, but I will absolutely make time.
Yeah.
There's not an email, text, message that I don't answer personally. It's very important to me that I do that. And I understand that I get a lot of them, but I will get to them and you will hear from me.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great point. Like each and every one of you, and including us, are a conduit to the right person to help you. And that's a question I have for you. Like, what are key qualities that you value in brokers that you're looking to bring into the network or that are already here?
Yeah. I think it's really important that you have that sense of professionalism. I think we did a really good job to ensure the people at DLC are the best, and not only, obviously doing business and volume, but also are the best at, wanting to be better and wanting to learn, get to that next step, get to that next level, that are interested and want to work hard, want to do it full time, and want to do really great things. Then those are the brokers that we want to talk to. And it's no offense to part-timers or someone that wants to just casually be a broker. There may be room within our organization for that, but I'd rather be in front of the ones that really want to take their business to a next level. I think we are the best at that. We've seen many of our brokers come in at a certain level, and we make promises. The promise is that we'll get you to that next level, and love seeing them get there.
Yeah.
And we celebrate all together.
Yeah.
If you're a stale broker and you've been, sort of banging your head and understanding, what can I do to get to that next level? Give us a call. We have the formula. We have the path. And I'm very confident in that. I'm not just saying, for the sake of I'm on a podcast and I'm trying to sell it. We can show you that we've brought brokers certain levels to that next level and to that next level.
Yeah, proof is in the pudding for sure. Maybe some advice to a broker that's listening, like how can they stand out in a crowded market?
When you look at the brokers that do stand out, they do things really well. And maybe they do, social media really well. Maybe they're always at events really well. But I can tell you, some of the top brokers in our industry and within DLCG, nobody knows them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like I can name off 10 right now that you'd be like, who? And the reason why is they have their head down and they're ensuring that they take care of their customers, their referral sources, and their teams.
That's a really good point.
Right?
That's a really good point. Like there's people that show up, like we publish our stack of top 50 every month to our team. And there's people that are consistently on that list, and brokers like, who is that? Like, who's that person at the top 10 always, right?
Yeah. It's amazing. And they're just so good at their craft.
Yeah.
And they don't necessarily want to stand out in the world, but they definitely want to stand out in their little business.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's why they're such high producers and they do such a good job. But most of those people that are doing exceptionally well, and let's say they're $100 million plus, they do certain things really well. And as I said, I've done a ton of research on this. The number one thing they do really well is that reach.
Yeah.
Is that prospecting. is understanding they have to get to that next deal. It's like Chris K says, recruiting or growth solves everything.
Yeah.
If you're constantly looking to grow and making sure that you get to that next deal, it's always going to happen for you.
Yeah. I mean, couldn't agree more. One thing I do want to ask you, we've touched on a few of these things throughout today, but what's some practical advice for brokers to boost their business under the current leadership model that DLCG implements? And it could be tech, it could be training. Like, what would be like one key piece?
Yeah, I mean, leaning in, like when I say that, I mean, look, I get that some brokers feel like they have the answer for everything. I believe if you want to get to that next level, there is things in front of you that are part of this network that can get you there. I mean, Gold Rush is a simple but effective way to get to the next level. Right? We can talk about, velocity, getting to that next level, the app. These are all little things that if you lean into, you understand it and what it can do for your business can actually get you to that next level. And we have the people to show you how to do it, how to use it properly. So I would say the best advice for those is not really one thing, it's leaning in to what's available to you because you're part of this organization. Yeah. Don't be shy.
Yeah.
Don't think that, I'm successful because I'm the smartest guy in the room, because I can tell you the resources we put behind these tools and this tech and what we do is huge. You're not going to outpace us.
Yeah.
Right? I promise you, your
Yeah.
technology is not going to outpace our technology. Your tools aren't going to outpace our tools. Chances are we're going to be, on top of it a little bit better. So lean in.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Don't reinvent the wheel. Right?
Yeah. Don't reinvent the wheel.
All right, wrapping up here, I want to get your thoughts on just the vision for the future, leadership vision, especially around the future of the mortgage industry. Like any trends that you're watching that you think are going to transform our industry?
Yeah, and I've been around a long time. So I saw this industry when it's single digits. I've seen it grow where first-time home buyers are now over 50%. We're the low 40s. CMC just had a report. We're now at 48% of the market, our brokers. I really believe we're going to cross that 50% in the next 18 to 24 months. And I think we're going to cross the 60% in the next 3 to 5 years. And I think eventually we'll be 70+%. And I believe that not because I want it and I'm part of this industry. I believe that because the consumer needs more advice. I think the consumer looks at the complexity of what's happening out there with regulation, policy, choice, and brokers are going to be the ones that are going to be solving more than anybody else. So, we want to make sure that we are keeping up, but we're also way ahead. And I believe that the broker community is going to keep rising, and more customers, clients, borrowers are going to come to the broker.
Yeah, I mean, look at the landscape over the last, year alone. The change in volume from typical prime, the alt space is growing drastically. Private's growing drastically to a point where these are, these large mix are almost being ran like banks, right? Like they're regulated. They're so structured. Private lending is no longer scary. Reverse mortgage has become this huge piece, right? And as a consumer, you just can't get all that from walking into your branch, right? And so brokers are really starting to wrap their head around how important that is to have those tools in their belt and be able to offer and talk about them, right? Close more deals and help your clients in a more effective way.
All right. I have one final question and I'm going to leave to the very end. But before we go there, I just want to know about how your leadership has evolved, especially from your early broker days to now leading the largest lending company in the country.
Yeah, how it has evolved. I think a lot of hard work and a lot of luck, right? I being in the right place at the right time, maybe even a moment in time that happened to be the time where people recognized and I was along for the ride. But I'll tell you, if anybody is looking and saying, hey, I cannot, do what Eddy does, or man, you're so lucky to anybody can do it. If I can do it, I don't have an education. My family are immigrants. I don't necessarily connected with white collar. I mean, my whole family and all around me has been blue collar. There's nothing that I have that has necessarily helped me be where I am. I think it's more of the hard work, understanding, being humble and kind, understanding that, you don't have to push down to get ahead. Sometimes you just have to stand up and be noticed. Don't be afraid of making suggestions. Don't be afraid of, hey, maybe this could work. Because I don't think anybody that's a leader has always succeeded. I think failure is where you learn the most and you become and you get to that next level. Hey, listen, I really appreciate where I am. Never a day goes by where I'm saying, I want more, I need more. And I just go through every day ensuring that I feel like I'm adding value. And if I'm adding value and being recognized for it, I'll be rewarded.
Yeah. That's great advice. Okay. My last question to wrap up. What would be one book you would recommend our listeners read immediately?
My favorite book is Darren Hardy, because, I know that Gary has, really implemented Darren Hardy, but I think that, he has written many books, but the one book that I feel like has changed what sort of I've become, and I've passed this on to my kids, and I think it's one book that anybody can read. Compound Effect.
Yeah,
I think that probably is one of the books that I would highly recommend because it's so simple.
Yeah,
right. You put in the effort.
Yeah,
and then it compounds over time. And the way that Darren puts it and places it in that book just resonates with you right away, and then you understand it, right?
Yeah.
Because anybody can put in an effort and then kind of say, okay, it's not working, and then but it shows you that if you put in that effort, you put in that effort, and you put it on, and you compound that, the effects are amazing. So I'd say that would probably be the one book I'd recommend.
That's a great point. And it's very similar to the Atomic Habits. They very similar philosophy. Right. Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, man. You're a breath of fresh air. Really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
You gave us a lot of good advice, a lot of good tips. So thank you. Yeah. Any final comments?
Well, you guys keep up the good work. I've sort of watched you. Actually, we did this. I don't know if you remember.
I do remember.
Okay. Yeah. It was a long time ago.
Long time ago. Yeah. We were in a very different place in our lives at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. What was that company called that you guys ran?
The funding department.
The funding department. Yeah. That's right. That was fun times, eh?
Yeah.
I like this a lot better.
Yeah.
That was 2019.
6 years ago.
Yeah.
2019?
Yeah.
Yeah. 6 years ago. Man, time goes quick, eh?
Yeah.
You guys, watching you guys blossom and what you guys are doing is pretty neat. So congratulations on, running a hugely successful brokerage. And I know that, you guys aspire to be way more, and I know you're going to reach those goals, and just keep going, man.
Yeah. Well, we do have to put it out there. DLCG's goal is 100 billion. We want to be 10% of that. Ooh. So we have a $10 billion target, and we're going to hit it alongside you.
Folks, you heard it here first. $10 billion. Let's go.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in. If you found value in this show, please subscribe to our channel on your preferred platform. We're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Your support is incredibly appreciated. We also welcome your reviews and feedback, which are crucial in helping us deliver outstanding educational content. Feel free to share your thoughts. A 5-star review would be fantastic if you think we earned it. Lastly, a vital announcement about Backpack Buddies, our chosen charity for 2025. This remarkable organization addresses a hidden hunger issue many are unaware of in British Columbia. While school districts provide meals during school hours, numerous children face food scarcity at home, particularly during the weekends. Backpack Buddies steps in to support these vulnerable children, ensuring they have easy-to-prepare, familiar food for weekends. This is achieved through collaborations with schools and an extensive distribution network. Your contribution can make a significant difference. With just $20, you can give a child in need a food bag from Backpack Buddies filled with enough meals and snacks to sustain them over the weekend and more. Once again,
Thank you for listening, and see you on the next one.